Hello, how are we doing? I still love reading George's emojis typed out to me on screen. So you might be able to tell, slightly different setup today, obviously aimed at getting this working really well for editing on your phone. So we have 3 cameras just to step things up from 1 to 2 to 3, why not? Yeah, say hello as you get in. Hello. Is it me or is it more echoey in here today? Oh, it's because I've closed the door, yeah. Can I have the plant over next to me to make it less echoey?
Do you want to?
No, I was joking. Marginally better. Who have we got? Everyone talk to me. George, you can never apologise for being... No, you're not apologising. I think he's showing off that he's 5 minutes early, not apologising. If you guys could see, I literally have mission control in front of me today. I have iPhone, tripod, iMac, iPad, 2 microphones, a billion wires, and somehow I've got to get my hands in here. So, a bit like last week's Friday episode, there's going to be a lot of me talking and showing this week, just given the nature of what we're doing. So now's your chance to talk to us and tell us how you're doing. Has everyone got their like best ever photo to work on today?
I think you need to lock the focus on that so that when you put your hands in it changes.
I don't think I can.
Oh, just in case, I don't know. Just check it after you've done it.
As long as we can see where I'm pressing, I think we're alright. We have 2 Georges. That's always good. So I'm taking it, George, then that means you're sharing devices with your mum, or have you both got a Lightroom you can work on? You have got 2 separate ones, that's good. Has everybody managed to download Lightroom okay? So while you're all kind of logging in and getting in and we're waiting for people, I thought I'd get some thoughts on future episodes for a moment. I'm opposing, Jen.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen was doing a screenshot of YouTube there for us, so I thought I'd pose, but then there's a delay, so I have to pose for like 4 seconds. Hardship. Yeah, so talking to kind of future episodes, we've got a few ideas going forwards. We've talked about possibly getting a guest on who works in a different area of photography to come and talk, so I don't know if that's of interest to anyone. Obviously, again, that's just going to be someone else talking about what they do and kind of ideas and stuff like that. What other thoughts were we talking about?
Lighting.
Yeah, lighting we talked about.
Follow this up.
Yeah, there's the option of this episode kind of having another part. There's something else I said and my brain's not working. I need coffee. There's There was something else. It'll come to me in a moment, I'm sure. So what I've done as well, I've put in the YouTube. God dear, my brain this morning. So I hope it works in a minute when we're actually talking about things that matter. In the description underneath on YouTube, I've put links to the Lightroom app, so if anyone needs to download it, they are there to make it quicker for you. I have also put a link to the Photography Club group on Facebook, so if anyone's not in that, get in that, because we post everything in there when we remember. Obviously hit subscribe on YouTube, that's always worth doing, that kind of thing. Are we missing anyone yet? I'm trying to count.
I think some people are just joining in late or what have you.
Sorry, stop pointing out me when I'm counting people. Have we got Pippa? I think Pippa's the other one who hasn't said anything. She tends to join in late when the boys are disturbing her. So for those who joined a little bit later, we've got a slightly strange setup. So we've advanced from 1 camera to 2 cameras to 3 cameras live this week. So I'm talking to you here. You have in the middle a shot of my screen so you can see what I'm doing, but obviously you can't see what I'm pressing on when I do that. So we have a camera for my fingers. Did my nails. It's not too bad. You don't have to put up with too much. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot more kind of looking at what I do and following me along with it. So once we go live, we're going to be looking at this screen. That should be muted, excuse me. Yeah, so you'll be looking at this screen more, so it is just what I'm doing, me talking, so you don't have to look at my ugly face for too long. But there's a little bit of the keynote we can look at to start with, but most of it's following me. So unfortunately a little bit less on the interaction front, a bit like last Friday's episode, but I'll try and kind of bring the interaction back in on Tuesday so we can talk about the pictures you've done. So what I'm going to get you to do is send in what you've edited. I'll talk to you about that at the end a bit more. And hopefully you can one by one talk us through what you've done so we can kind of look at them. Okay, how are we doing? I can't see anything. Where are we at?
I think it's right.
Everyone give me a thumbs up if you're ready. Good morning. Hello. Just realised. 1 second, in fact. So George's message on my screen reads, you got this, you got this, you got this. Good vibes, you got this, you got this. Virtual hug. So thank you, George.
What's Zoe say?
Weirdly, I think it's the Apple ones work fine.
Oh.
So I've got
Mine's
thumbs up and
this if you
buff
hover
arms.
over flex biceps.
Flex biceps. Nice. Right, I think that is everybody ready to go. So, quick introduction. I don't think anyone's new, but welcome to Photography Club. I'm Gavin Rolfe. This is Jenny.
Oh, I don't think that thing with the light.
Yeah, good one. Jen's just going to walk into everything like she has been doing a whole lockdown. Ralph's down here. I'll bring him in later. Maybe use his paws to be touching controls. That could be fun. Knock everything over. Right then. So, where can I do this? I've done it again. Obviously, if anyone fancies sharing this, joining the group, subscribing, following us on Instagram, Facebook, it's just Rolf and Co Photography everywhere. It's nice and easy to find. So what you're going to need today is homework from Tuesday, which was bringing along your best photo. So you're going to edit along with me. You also need, we don't need a camera particularly for this episode. Obviously, it helps if you can be watching me and using a phone at the same time. So I hope everyone's kind of worked something out to do with that. Do need a bit of enthusiasm, and your brains will help also. Right then. So we are looking at phone editing today. So we looked at phone photography last week, and we're now looking at editing those pictures. So this is more about kind of getting the most out of the images you've already taken. So this isn't about correcting something you've done wrong. The answer to that is get it right in the first place. This is about making things better, just kind of improving on what you've already got. Where are we? So hopefully everybody has downloaded Lightroom already. So either it should work on everyone's phones. Did anybody have any issues with that just before we go on? Because it's going to be quite boring if you're not able to do it with me. I just realised I can actually do this. Let's see what it does. Good, we've got enthusiasm. That's helpful. So I'm going to struggle to find an unedited photo. That's just showing off now. So that what we might be with some of the settings and some of the things we go through in Lightroom. You've got normal Lightroom, Lisa, so as in on the computer. Sorry guys, I interrupted myself then. Can't have been that important. Yes, it'll be the same. If you've got it on your phone, it's the same, don't worry about it. That's just how it showed up to me in the App Store for some reason. Yeah, as long as it's on a phone or an iPad, that's absolutely fine. I'm doing it and showing you on my phone because the icons and things are very slightly different on an iPad. Actually, they're simpler on the iPad, but it means if someone was following along on their phone, they wouldn't understand. The iPad will, rather than having the icons I'll show you in a minute, it will have just the text saying it. So it's actually a little bit easier, if anything, a little bit clearer on screen. I've got the iPad here, so if you want to, I can try and show you on that while we're doing it. Wonderful. So, phone editing. So, as I said before, this isn't about fixing anything. This is about making the most of what you've already got. So hopefully you've all got one perfect image ready to go and sat in your camera roll or gallery or whatever your phone decides to call it. If everybody, while I'm talking, just wants to open up to this screen that you can see. So when you first open Lightroom, you'll come up with this. If you've already messed around and added photos, the blue icons will probably be down here without these underneath, so you'll have previews of your pictures. As long as you've got these two blue ones in there, then you're on the right screen, so that's fine. So, phone editing. We are going to be using these icons on the left, so these are the ones, as I said, on the iPad that will actually say in text instead of the actual icon, but you should be able to kind of follow along fairly easily anyway. We're not going to be using all of these, so I'm not going to show you every single setting. We could be here for absolutely hours. I'm going to show you the most useful ones, and yeah, help you do the best you can with Lightroom. So we're skipping out those two. So if you can see, we'll show you in a minute when we get a photo up. These are the four main tools we're going to be using, plus a couple of extra kind of menu options. Can anybody hazard a guess at what those 5 icons mean for me? So we've got 5 icons there on the keynote. I hope everyone can see them okay. Going down the left. Can anyone guess what those 5 might mean? Top is crop and rotate, absolutely. So all of these have sub options within them. They're not just one thing. So general is fine. If you're on an iPad, they're in the same order and they say it for you. Yeah, light, absolutely. The sun is literally just means it's covering all manners of brightness, exposure, contrast, everything. What about the third one? Does anyone know what that is? Absolutely, Emma, well done. That's the more complicated one because it's a temperature gauge. It's talking about colour temperature, that one. So when we talk about editing photos, we talk about the temperature of the colour. As you're right, Zoe, it does have warmth and saturation, things like that in there. Fourth one. Not quite, George. I will explain a bit more in a moment. These last 3 were the harder ones because they're not quite as literal. Does anyone have any guess to what that fourth one could be? Effects, absolutely, Emma. So this is our, as I put it last week, slightly more gimmicky bits. So the bits that are just going to give us something a bit more quirky and just mess around with some ideas. And the final one, can anybody guess what that could be? Yeah, actually, detail's a really good summary of that. Sharpness was the word I was going to use, but I actually like detail because that covers the few other things that are in there as well. Because it definitely doesn't have to be sharpness. Perfect. Right then, and there you go. As you said, they are all on screen, so you can see. Yeah, but I'm liking using the word detail for that. I mean, that's definitely right. So, most important things I can kind of say going through this is everything in moderation. She's had a play with it, of course she has. Everything we can do in here can completely wreck the quality of your image. So most of the tools will have a 0 to 100 or something similar, minus 100 to 100 kind of thing. Usually if you push these all the way to the way, you're going to make your image look really, really bad. And the same thing with using lots and lots of things. We're going to destroy the quality of the image. So moderation, using things, just little subtle amounts just to make things better. So no going absolutely crazy on it. We're also probably going to try a few things that might not work together. So I'll show you in a moment how to reset your image as we go along. So have I made an evil mango? Yeah, sure. So as we go along, I'll show you how to reset them because it might be that you do something, you make something look amazing. There's different things that you don't want to mix together. So I'll show you how to reset them. I'm also going to show you obviously how to export and save an image, and what that does is rather than overwriting the image you've already done, it's going to create a new one in your camera roll, so you've got the same image in there twice, one unedited, one edited, so you're always keeping your original one. That means you can go back and try doing different things on the same image. It might be you like what you did but you want to have another go. And then we'll look at saving and applying presets so that if you found something that we really like and you want to apply to another image later, you can save it. You don't have to go through all these settings time and time again. Right then, so I'm hoping I've kind of covered everything there quite quickly, so I can go to the screens. Does anyone need that left on screen for a moment longer to write anything down, or is everyone happy with that? Feel free to make notes, and if you want me to slow down at any point because you're making notes, do tell me, because there's quite a lot of information quite quickly here. feel like there should be an evil mango emoji for you, George. Let's have a look. There is. Not that it's letting me type it. You'll have to do it.
What?
Definitely saw one. Just on Apple then. Right.
There.
So let's go to the. There we go. We have a mango. Okay, that's not relevant, really, is it? So can everyone see? Let's put that down there. Can everyone see these two screens? And is that clear to everyone why we've got two screens? So we have. On your left is the actual screen, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. You can see what its effect it's having on the image. The one on the right is so you can see my little sausages doing their work. Right, so the first thing we are going to do is add the photo. So I hope everyone's got their photo ready. We are going to press this button here, the picture with the plus. And we're going to click on, for me it says from camera roll, so I think that'll be slightly different on Android, but you click on that, it's got the little film canister next to it. So click on from camera roll. Should we add? Where was that? Oh, I'm going to do a landscape one. Should we go with? Where's that gone? There we go. Okay, so I have an image on screen. Has everybody done the same? So we should have clicked on that, and that is going to open kind of a preview. So before we do anything else, we want to click the tick because this is going to add it to our library. So rather than just editing it there, we're going to add it to the library so we can keep coming back to it. So there you go. So it says added to all photos, and I'm going to click on it just here. So we should have done blue button, camera roll, find the photo, tick in the top corner, and then press on it. Everybody keep thumbing up and telling me that you're keeping up here because I don't want to lose anyone. So hopefully everyone's got a similar screen to me. When you do it portrait, it'll be slightly different. Show you. So portrait's going to be like this with your controls at the bottom. It's absolutely fine. I'm doing it this way because it fits better on the screen. And it's a bit easier for my sausages to work on. Right, so first thing we're going to look at is cropping. So this is something fairly simple that I'm sure you've all used before. Can anyone remind me why we are cropping on here, not beforehand? So not zooming in when we're taking the photo. So for those on iPad, let me just open it. Yeah, so on iPad, you've got the words going down. So like we said, light, colour, effects, detail, those four, and then cropping is slightly separate. So yeah, absolutely guys, better quality. And we are still cropping here, but if you can do it afterwards, it's easier to do it afterwards rather than messing around when you're actually taking the picture. But we're going to be doing very slight tweaks when we're cropping here. Is anyone else other than Mum on iPad? I think Dom's on iPad as well. And does anybody else have a drastically different screen to what you can see on the left? I'm going to take that as a no. Not saying anything. Okay, I'll keep going then. Just shout to me if anyone's got different screens to me, because obviously I don't want you to lose you completely. So we're doing crop. So the crop tool that we discussed about before, I'm going to press on that. So the ratios we talked about last week are up here. So it's going to depend on your image. Everything we do is different image by image. So like we keep talking about, this is about making a conscious decision and what you think works best for your image. I'm going to continue to work in the 4:3 we talked about, but you've got all your options down here. So the 16:9 we talked about last week, the square, but we'll keep on 4:3. So fairly simple. You've probably all used something like this before. We just drag that corner in any direction to get it how we want, or go away. There we go. And we have this undo wheel here. Wheel? Arrow was the one. That at any point we can go back. We also have this underneath here, which has got degrees on. So this is rotating. So when you hold on it, you just spin each way. It tells you how many degrees you're rotating it. So for me, I like how I did it in the first place. So I am going to keep my image like that. But hopefully everybody has managed to crop their image to how they want it. I quite often find, because this brings up a grid as we do it, it's quite a good way that you can actually line it up with things like horizons and rooms and things like that. Right. So then, once you're happy with it, we can use a few other things. There's a straighten tool here. So if you have, in fact, that's actually done an auto straighten on it. You can rotate the image and you can mirror it. Again, fairly gimmicky things we don't need to particularly use. More importantly, we've got cross and tick. So when we're happy with it, if you've done something to it, just press tick, and that's going to go back to the screen before. Can you just at least do a crop, though? Is it the other things that don't work? Tell you what I should do. Let's do this. Has everybody else caught up there? I'm just going to hold on just for a second. I want to make sure everyone's getting the same things as me. Obviously, I can't see your screens. And so I'm just trying to see if I can simulate it for you. Are you on your phone? Right, yeah, I can't even simulate. Sorry, just tried to see if I can simulate it and I can't get that.
Maybe reinstalling the app. Delete it and reinstall it.
Yeah, that's not a bad option. Don't know if you heard that, but deleting it and reinstalling it. Do you want to Google it quickly and just... Oh, I thought it might be that, because there's some features on there everyone will spot that will have a little blue star next to it, or sorry, white star on a blue circle. They're for premium, so for Adobe account holders, which we've got, but so that's why you aren't seeing that coming down here. You'll have it on these top tools, will have the blue star. But that the crop shouldn't be one of those. I'm going to keep going, so I'm afraid. But Jen's just looking that up for us. See if we can see if the other tools will work for you while we're doing it. Okay, so we have done cropping. So hopefully that's helped everyone. Again, most of these things translate to other apps and things like that. We're using Lightroom because for starters, it's good. Secondly, it's something we can all use together, and I know that you've all got the same things on your screen, in theory. So next, we're going to look at that amazing little temperature icon. Yeah, so we look at the temperature one. So this is colour. So quite a lot of complicated settings here. Some simple ones too. We're going to use 3 here. We're going to use either black and white, which is fairly straightforward. So we're changing your image to black and white. We're going to use the white balance, which is this eyedropper. This controls this temperature and tint. So what we want to do, I haven't tried it on this image, it's going to depend on images, but this we want to put on a completely neutral, so either white, black or grey part of the image. That's not helpful, I've picked the wrong image for this. See, this is, so hopefully you've all got something that'll work better if I find some black. As you can see, it's going to pick a white balance on, because I'm on leaves, it's going to change. Mine actually was right in the first place, which doesn't help matters. There you go. So you want to find a neutral part of your image. I might show you on a better image actually here. Let's try it on a picture of Ralph. So white balance, so we know. So you might have to move it around a little bit, but if you find a nice neutral part, all that's doing is telling the camera which part of your image is black, white or grey, so it has no colour in it at all, and that's going to tell it what the rest of those colours should be in respect to that. So there, it's easier if you have got black, white or grey on it. Where are we? There we go. So back to this one. The other thing we're going to use on here is the vibrance tool. It's very similar to saturation. I just prefer the effect it gives, so we're just going to stick with that. All that's going to do is change the relationship of colours. So if you want something a little bit more muted with less colour, we go down. And if you want something more bright and more vibrant, we go up. Now this is a great example of what I was saying about quality. So when I go up to 100, we're going to start to get, can you see where these greens, you get these lines, these little bits of bad quality appearing when it actually loads. You're starting to get points where the colours are kind of breaking, so you can see that bit coming through there. These colours kind of splitting up a little bit. That's not good. If we drop it down, it'll look a little bit more natural. So at 53, we've kind of got away with it on that image. The other thing you'll start to get is on the skies, you'll start to get kind of lines going across it, which is what we call the gradient, not kind of translating very well. And you'll start to get a bit more noise, and this isn't too bad at all, so that's worked quite well. So yeah, so that's your vibrance. And yeah, obviously black and white is black and white, so that's fairly straightforward for you. Right, so the next one we're going to go over to is exposure. So exposure is, let's tell you, can anybody give us a bit of a definition of exposure for us? So are these other things working for you? Is it just the crop tool that wasn't working?
Trying to find an iPhone problem. Everyone's been probably the same thing on other things on iPhones.
Zoe, are you out of storage? There we go, very strange. Okay, sorry, well, we'll carry on. So can anybody tell me what exposure means? Oh, it's warm in here. Do you mind opening this?
Which side it's working now?
Am I going too fast for everyone? I don't want to lose you all. I think it's because we got the door closed.
Yes.
I'm just going to give you all a chance just to talk and catch up for a second. But we're asking you, what does exposure mean in this context, what we are doing? Oh, hello. What have you done, Ralph? Yeah, so exposure would mean the light coming through the lens. In this case, we're actually adjusting it afterwards, so it is effectively, it's just how bright the image is, basically. So we've got a few tools on here. I'm going to talk you through all of them. They are all useful in their own way. The only one I don't use on there is contrast, because those two at the bottom do a very, very similar thing. Most of these do very, very similar things. They're quite acute, the difference between them. So exposure, oh Ralph, it's just going to darken and lighten everything in the image. Now when you're using these sliders, you're just dragging them up and down. If you want to reset them, just double tap on them and they'll go back to the beginning. Everything, when we're talking about exposure, we talk about highlights, midtones, shadows, and blacks and whites. So your highlights are your light parts of your images, whereas your whites are your actual 100% white points of an image. So these lighter bits we've got around here would be your highlights, whereas these solid ones with absolutely no more in them will be whites. Same thing with shadows and blacks. Your shadows are your nice dark bits, your blacks are the actual points of black on there. So that is the difference between those. Now what they do in practice is your highlights, you're just going to darken them. You can darken them down a little bit, or you can lighten them up a little bit. What it will do is never, in contrast to white, so highlights, you'll lighten them, but you'll never actually completely make them white. Your whites will completely do the opposite. So these two, the black and white, are a little bit worse for the quality that we talked about before. These highlights and shadows are a little bit more subtle. So why would we use this? Shadows is going to get a little bit more, shadows and highlights are going to get a little bit more depth into your image. So this is where we want to be able to see a little bit more into those shadows, into those highlights. So I'm going to zoom in to show you what we're doing here. So shadows, you're probably going to notice more on this image. So I'm going to go into a slightly darker point of the image. If we just lighten that, we're going to get some bit more detail, bit more depth into those darker points. I'll show you before and after. In fact, I can do it like that, can't I? So that's another good tip actually, guys. If you just tap on your image, it'll make it full screen, so it makes it a bit easier to look at. If you press and hold, it'll show you before and after. So all we've done here is that vibrance and those shadows. And then I'm going to show you as well, before we talk, highlights. We're just going to darken them down. So let's go to a bit with quite a lot. So we've got quite a lot of light points around this part of the image. If we darken them down, we can see there's a bit more information in there. So we can bring a bit more colour back in here. So again, if I do before and after, that's done a lot. So I'm just going to show you very quickly, because we did that vibrance before. I'm just going to turn that off so you can see what just this is doing. So what kind of effect does everyone think this is having on this image? So this is, again, as I said, is a case of using things in moderation. If we go with those shadows, if I lighten them to all the way plus 100, you can see you're getting this horrible breakup in the image again, like we talked about before. So again, it's that little bit better, a little bit of moderation. You don't want to go the whole way with them. Keep things subtle. But then, so blacks, I'm just going to give things a heavier look when I darken the blacks. And whites, when I lighten them, give things a very bright, punchy look. So what effect do we think these shadows and highlights have had on this image? What does everyone think? Sorry, I've got a rigging escape meister on my lap. You're all very quiet. Is this everyone concentrating? Has everyone had a chance to kind of try all those settings and see what they're doing to their image? So these are tools that you're probably going to use on most images. So as I said, hopefully your exposure is correct in the first place. I mean, if we do that, I think we'd honestly say that image has got a nice balance of the sky's exposed okay, and yet we've still got those leaves exposed okay. We've done quite a good job of exposing it correctly, but we've definitely added to the image by doing those settings. So there's no kind of right or wrong, particularly with any of these settings, or very few of these settings. Different things are going to get us different effects. We could go for a much heavier look to this. I particularly find, I'm going to show you this in black and white, just for kind of the sake of it. We could darken these blacks. And get a completely different look to it. It still works, it's still a really, really good image, and we've just got a different effect to it.
Sun looks starry.
Why does my sun look starry? Has someone asked that, or are you asking it?
Mum's asked.
Why does my sun look starry? The sun is a star. Hang on, sorry. Sorry, I just wanted to put that on so I could look smug for a minute. Just does that when you point it in exactly the right way. You have to move around a bit to get it just quite through there. Come on, get off me. You're pummeling my legs. Good lord, dog. Right. Has everybody followed okay there? I think I'm packing in quite a lot quite quickly here, so I'm hoping that made sense to everyone. We're going to move on to the next set, so we're going to be looking at sharpening next. Has everyone had time to have a play round and get something they're happy with? I'm going to go back on this. I'm going to stick with colour, if nobody minds. So yeah, I'm going to keep changing mine. If at any point you do get a bit fed up and you don't like what you've got, let me remind myself how to do this. Where has it gone? I've forgotten where this setting is.
Which one?
Oh no, that's it. So if you decide you don't like what you've done, you want to go back to the beginning, if you scroll down on this menu on the right or all the way across at the bottom, you've got this arrow with the line under it. If you press that, you just want to reset all, and you'll just go back to how you started. It's quite a good one if you've kind of messed around lots and you think, right, I'm going to go back, I'm going to change it to what I really liked. So in my case, I'm going to do my vibrance up a little bit. I'm going to do my highlights down because that's bringing this back in. I'll lift my shadows a little bit. Yes, please. Sorry, Jen's miming coffee to me when she might as well just ask me. Exposure's right. I like how that looks. I'm actually going to put a bit more of this in. There we go. Lovely. Right. So once you're all happy, you've got an image that you want to move on with, and we want to change a few things, we're going to move on to that detail, as Emma so rightly put it. Next, I'm doing these in order that I would probably do things where if I was editing for a client for a show or for some work, because I find this the most effective way of doing things. You know, I want to get my colours right at the start. You know, with cropping, there's no point in working on an image and you're changing things about part of it that you're cropping out. So that's first. I then went into colour because, again, I want to make sure I've got those things right before I start messing with things too much. So that's why then my sharpening comes a little bit later on, once I've got the general kind of look at the image right. So we're going to go onto that detail button. Right, so I'm not going to do too much in here. With a photo on your phone, it's already got a little bit of sharpening on it. It's not going to need much doing to it. This is a very definite, there is right or wrong, I'm afraid, and there is a lot you can do damage-wise to an image this way. So I'm going to zoom in to show you. If I go all the way up, you're going to get this really kind of crispy look to it that just doesn't look right. It's a very unnatural thing. Actually, it doesn't look the worst on that picture. You'll particularly notice it on people and things like that. That will look absolutely horrible, and it's going to start bringing out details in people you don't want to see. I think, as a rule, on your phone photos, don't go above about 50. So if I show you before and after, just zooming in there, you're still starting to get that a bit too crispy. Sharpening is just going to make things look a little bit more in focus. As I said before, this isn't an excuse to fix a photo that you've done wrong. Like we did last week, click on the focus, get it in focus first time, let this enhance it and make it look better. Right, so keep everything pretty much the same. The only one you might want to do a little bit with is this noise reduction. If you are shooting in the dark, and as we were saying, we're doing it without flash. So if you're in the dark, you will get a bit of noise in there. Now that's in the darker areas of an image where you're getting a little bit of kind of texture coming in. So if I find a little bit to show you, not a great image to show you on, there we go, let's zoom in there. So if you can see, just in here, we've got that little bit of kind of a gritty, grainy look to it. This is noise. This noise reduction will reduce that, but it at the sacrifice of this sharpness. So you're going to make the image look softer and less in focus by changing this. So you kind of balance in between them. Again, don't go the whole hog. It's going to look really weird. There we go. That does look really, really weird. So you're getting that everything looks really soft and blurry. So again, go to about 20, 30 if you need it. Don't bother going above that. It's just going to make it look messy. Okay, so not much to do. As I said, this is kind of the one section where there is almost a little bit of a right and wrong. I'll let you all have a couple of minutes just to have a play with that and see what you think. And by all means, try going too far on things and zoom in and look at what it's doing to that image. And what was the other image? If we do it on Ralph, we'll be able to... Let's bring Ralph in. Let's go nice and close on your face, mate. What do you reckon? So if I do a few of those things just to show you how badly wrong we can go with this. So, those blacks, let's go really black. And we're starting to get points where it steps between it, particularly up here. So you've got solid black. It just looks a little bit strange. Same with the whites. If we go, it's just going to be solid white, which is going to look very unnatural. And again, obviously exposure is going to do this. It's doing it on everything. That's just lightening and darkening everything, so it's going to look weird. And let's go to that sharpening to show you how strange that looks. This is one of the situations where you'll find the better your phone, the more you'll get away with on some of these settings. But if I show you on noise reduction how weird this looks. So it's where we start to lose details. It looks very strange. Again, you've got the softening around here, which looks very weird. So less is more on some of these things. Right, radius. So the radius on our sharpening, so we need to have a bit of sharpening on there to do it. I'm going to go back to the other image, it's a better example. The radius is the size of the sharpening. So your sharpening is doing a percentage basically of how much it's doing it. The radius is how wide that sharpening is. Generally 1 is about right. On something with a lot of, an image like this, you might get away with going up a little bit because there's lots of little details. On something a bit more big like Ralph's face, don't bother. We can probably go to about 1.2, but if you have a look, have a play with it by all means. It's just going to affect, if you look at an edge, how far that sharpening goes along that edge and away from it. So if you watch this line through here, go back to 1. It's very subtle, isn't it? You can see the difference more when I go before and after. There's most of these, what you've got to remember is Lightroom is a professional app with quite a lot of settings, and I don't use a lot of these day in, day out anyway. So for a photo on your phone, there's very little reason to be using a lot of these settings. We just want to use the ones that can make the most out of our image. Right, so that's detail, and we're going to move on to effects. So this is where we get a little bit gimmicky. And we can get a little bit mad with some of the images. So obviously feel free to have a play. I'm going to start with the simplest one first because it has multiple settings for it, and that is vignette. Can anybody tell me what a vignette is first of all? Have you all fallen asleep, guys? Close, Zoe. Close. Little scene, nice. Not going to argue with that. So a vignette is basically shadowing or lightening of the corners of an image. It's technically there with some lenses. You will get it coming in naturally, and you're using this tool to counter that. We can also use it creatively. Yeah, I like the literal translation. I'm not going to argue with it at all, especially as I was smug about the star thing. So I must admit I very often creatively use the lightening because it looks very 1970s and very strange, but you can see what it's doing there. So I'm just going to show you these other tools to make it easier. Your midpoint is going to change literally the midpoint to where it starts from, so we can bring it out and in. Your feather is going to change how much this gradient is, so where it kind of blends. So the less is going to make a nice solid, so we literally just put a circle around it, haven't we? Or we go all the way up like this, and we're starting to look like a Bob Ross painting. The roundness will change, literally the roundness, and this will start looking oval shaped, and it'll start looking more squared off. So if I just do that just to show you what it's doing, so your midpoint, just moving it in and out. Your roundness, we're going to square it off. So the more useful way of doing this is the vignette the other way and going a bit darker. So we're going to keep that, I personally would keep that feather really high because we don't want to do anything really obvious. The vignette's a little bit too dark. Midpoint, we're going to move it out a little bit. And that roundness can give us a nice kind of film look to it because we can just take it just to the edges a little bit. It's very subtle, but a bit of fun. It can work quite well on an image. Like I said, it's a bit more gimmicky. It's us creating an effect and creating something a little bit unnatural, but it can work really well on an image and not much we can kind of go wrong. As again, just using it in moderation works well. I hopefully won't see anyone sending in pictures that look like that, where we've got a complete black at the edge. So, moderation. There you go, nice and subtle. Yeah, the other thing I don't want to see is that. That's just weird. This is the one tool, feather, go to 100 on it, I'm happy with that. Right, so the next one we've got dehaze, don't use very often, it's quite useful in landscapes, it's going to literally remove any haze in an image. These three can all three be very, very destructive to an image, so be careful with them, again in moderation. I'm going to remove the vignette just so it's easier for you all to see what we're doing. Dehaze, so minus dehaze is going to make it look hazier, plus dehaze is going to make it look crisper and stronger. Again, don't go all the way up. You know, if you want to go about 30 and that kind of thing, I'll show you the effect it's having close in. What you'll find with a lot of things in Lightroom is you can do a lot of the same things with different tools in different ways. So you'll find a lot of photographers have a different way of going about something, to me, for example, or to someone else, but they're doing the same effect at the end. There's nothing wrong with that. Everyone learns in different ways and does different things. I'm just showing you what each tool does for now. So that's dehaze. Clarity means, I'm going to do it on the whole image for you. It's probably, these two are the even more destructive tools here. Clarity, it literally means mid-tone contrast, and it's going to make an image look more, have more clarity. I mean, it literally means what it means. So less is going to blur it, soften it. That can work really nicely on some landscapes and some pretty things. I mean, again, don't go minus 100, but it's softening the image out. It's changing these edges that we talked about before and the difference between them. So just blurring them into each other a little bit. So on plus 100, we're going to get that really, really harsh looking image. Again, plus 100 is going to be a bit destructive. I don't see why people can't be going up to about 50 on the right image. Again, this is decision making, making sure you're happy with it. Texture, similar, but on a more kind of smaller scale. So we're going to get those details, a bit like sharpening, but more the relationship between them. So that leaf was a really good bit to look at. Just showing off the detail in it a little bit. So if I show you, if we go all of these on minus, you're going to get a very weird image. And the same thing, all of these on plus. Bit much. But, as I said, I don't think that needs that. We can get a cool kind of crisp looking image by doing it that way. Right, so that is all of our effects. So, what I want everyone to do is go through all those settings and we're going to get an image you are really happy with. So if everyone could give me a thumbs up when they've got it using those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 settings that we've gone through, the 5 groups, create exactly what you like. So I'm going to do a few things. I might do something a bit different while we're at it. Just because I've posted this image with this basic settings on my Instagram, so we'll do it different for now. Just to show we can get a slightly different effect to the image. So if everyone just kind of does what they want, do something you like, whatever, you don't have to do the same things as me, it's your decision what you do. So I'm going to start off by resetting my settings. And we'll start from the beginning. So we're going to go cropping. I don't think I need to crop, so I'm going to go colour, give it black and white. Then we go exposure. So I'm going to lift the shadows a little bit. Darken those highlights just so we've got this appear. Right, now I'm going to punch those blacks. I'm going to go black. Right. sharpness. I hope everyone's getting something they're really happy with here. Right. If everyone tells me when they've got their picture as they want to finish on, up on screen. I will show you quickly. No, I won't. Sorry. I'm being indecisive. We can go deeper on this. If somebody wants to do another lesson like this, tell me and we can definitely do it. It's possible that I can do it where we create together a few different looks to use on lots of different pictures. But I don't want to go too deep in one episode and absolutely overwhelm you all with information. So people might also be interested to know this app, if you wanted to send pictures from other cameras to your phone, so whether you've got a DSLR, you've got a compact or something like that, you can still do them. This doesn't have to be phone photos. All these settings work exactly the same. If you're advanced enough and you are shooting RAW, if you know what that is, then that's fine. If not, don't worry. They will work on this as well, and you'll actually get a little bit more from these settings we're talking about. But anything can be done with it. It's very powerful and very good. Right, so getting lots of thumbs up, so I'm going to move on. Assume you're all happy. So what we're going to do next is we're going to talk about saving a preset. So you're happy with this setting. So it might be that these settings you don't want to go through and do time and time again. And you're probably going to take quite similar pictures with similar lighting. As I said before, every image is different. You're never going to get the exact same lighting, colours, everything in an image. But you're quite happy with what you've got. So what we're going to do is save a preset so that when we open another image, we can apply the same thing to that image. So we are going to go to these three dots just here. And we're going to click, guess what? The Create Preset button. We're going to give it some smart name. I'm going to call mine black and white. I hope I'm going to call it leaves because I probably already have a black and white preset. Right, so when we've done that, so this should be ticked as standard. These should be right, don't mess with them, there's no point. None of those things that are unticked on a free version of Lightroom can be changed anyway, so you should be happy with everything you've got there. So when you're happy with that, we're just going to click tick and we have saved a preset. Now before we do anything else, I'm going to let you catch up and then we're going to show you how to export that photo so that you can post it or print it or do whatever you want with it. I hope I'm not going too fast. I'm conscious that we're doing a lot quite quickly. But obviously you can go away, play with this. Message me if you want help. If there's anything you're confused about, feel free to screenshot it, send me the image, do whatever, I'll tell you. Not doing too much. I can afford some time to help you out with stuff, so in fact I'd love it. So send stuff over if you want. Alright, so I'm going to assume you've all managed to save that preset. So we've created an image you're really happy with. We've saved the settings for it so we can apply it to another image in a moment. But now we need to export the image. So we need to not just save it, because it does save. We can go out of this on Lightroom. Oh, hello. And come back in, and it'll still have those settings saved because it stores that information for us unless we delete it. But we want to save the image so we can share it. So we're going to click the little share icon up here. Again, that might be different depending on your phone. But if we press on that, we're going to click You can do the share to and other things as well. I would recommend doing export to camera roll because you're happy with what you've got. So if you click export to camera roll, it's just going to do that. Again, depends on your phone, it might be slower or quicker than that, it depends on the size of the picture. If you're working with something off a digital SLR or anything like that, you're probably a bigger file, it's going to go a little bit slower. But that should now be sat, I mean, if I go to add from my camera roll, it should have put it at the bottom, up here. So we can then use that on other apps. Right, so we have done everything with that, we've exported it, we're happy with that picture. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to import another picture that's different and we're going to apply that preset to it. So we're going to go back, I'm going to use the magic little blue one here. You can use this camera incidentally if you want to be taking pictures with it. Keep it on automatic with that. It's very similar to other ones and not much you can do different. But we're going to add another picture. Let's find something that works with that black and white. Tell you what, we talked about this image that we took, creating the shape. So all I want to do is add that back in like we did before. Go to that picture. And now we have a preset section just here. No, ignore me, wrong one. It's similar. This one, sorry, the two circles overlapping, not squares overlapping. So I'm going to click on the two circles overlapping. And up here, we should have a user presets. So we're going circles overlapping. We haven't done anything to this image yet. We click on the circles overlapping, click on the drop down, we go to user presets, and there we go. Magic. My preset is there. It looks quite cool with that picture. I think it needs cropping. As I said, there's going to be different things with different images that you're going to want to change. So for me, that sky's too light, and this is too light as well. So if anything, actually the exposure needs to drop down. Those whites need to drop. But as I said about being too destructive, it's gone a little bit too far on that image. You can see the lines here, so it's a little bit. Let's try on another image. See what else we've got. Oh, where was that fence one I liked? That one. Yeah, this one should work well. So, presets, back on my leaves. So, as I said, so you click tick on that. Sorry guys, I didn't say that before. As I said, whites are a little bit much on this, aren't they? So we just drop those whites down. But you could see when I opened it, that there was parts of the image that were too light. So different images are going to have different things. You're not just going to apply a preset and be happy with it, or very unlikely to be happy with it straight away. So we're just going to make a couple of adjustments to make sure we're happy. I think those shadows are a little bit too light as well. If anything, there's a little bit. There we go. There we are. So completely different image, but we've managed to use that preset and not change too much. It means you're not going through those menus and changing everything again and again and again. Just speeds things up a little bit for you. It might be that you then end up, I cleared mine down just for this, but I had about 10 presets sat in there that I'd created over time. I'll happily recreate them again because it's fun. So we can just go through, create a load of presets. It might be that you mess around for a while. Bear in mind, every image is going to be different, and to use things in moderation. Right, has everybody caught up? Has everybody now got probably 2 photos saved to their camera roll? So obviously I'm going to save that. There we go. Where's everyone at? Are you all caught up? Happy with photos? And any questions before we move on? And as well, before we move on, has everybody learnt a lot? Can't find your saved preset, Lisa. So we're just going to go to these 2 circles here, and it will automatically open on one of these other menus. So there's all these other presets. Feel free to play around with these guys. There will be some interesting stuff in there, but please don't assume they'll be instantly right for your photo. You're going to have to tweak, or probably going to have to tweak them a little bit. So user presets at the bottom here. It'll be there. If you can't find it, if this is empty, it probably means you haven't saved it. In which case, go back to the image that you did it on. We're going to click the 3 dots. We're going to click Create Preset and just type in a name and click Tick, and that's going to create you a new preset for it. Has that worked, Lisa? Yes, good. So everybody else, what's your favourite thing we've done there? What did everyone like most, and what do they think they're going to use most as well? You're all quiet again. Yeah, exactly, Zoe. It's just a case of having something there as a starting point. You like the effects, George? I had a feeling you might. Yeah. As I said, I'm going to keep repeating it. Everything in moderation. Don't push things too hard. An image is what it is. The more you push it, the worse quality it's going to get. We want to maximize what you've already got. Emma, you're quiet. What have you liked using there? So as well, before I give the homework, as I mentioned at the start, kind of future episodes and maybe having someone else on or other ideas. Has anybody got anything they'd like to do? Anything? Would people like to do another episode around editing? Would people like to do another one with taking photos or going back into some theory or even some history? What would people like to do? Keep forgetting to look up there. Camera's up there. I know we piled a lot in very quickly there, guys. I hope you're all sat there messing with Lightroom. Nice, George. How are you finding it? Would you like a more in-depth lesson on how to use that? I know a few people have got one. Not sure. Love to know more. Okay. Can look at that. It might be that what we can do as a follow-up lesson, we'll talk about it a bit more on Tuesday, but we could maybe go through and I'll show everyone different ways. There's a few more tools I use that I haven't talked through today. We could maybe look at creating you a set of presets that give you different looks. So I don't know if that would help anyone. Kind of maybe create a little bank of 5 presets to have set. So maybe like a black and white one, a fade one, a really harsh one, something like an HDR one, that kind of thing. Then everyone's got a little arsenal to go. Maybe that would be a good thing to go with. Okay, right, we'll have a look at that. Got a few other options as well. I have got the option of a guest. We could do something with the phone lens, but obviously I appreciate not everyone's got one, so I don't want to do too much that limits anyone. So that might be a separate video we could do. But yeah, always open to everyone's thoughts. Right, so if we move on to the homework, which I've had on screen for 5 minutes and not done anything. So homework this week is to edit 5 photos using Lightroom. At least 3 must be shot new. You're welcome to use 2 older ones as well, so you don't have to shoot 5 whole new ones. So 3 new images, 2 previous. You're welcome to do more new ones if you want. And we want them sent in by 6 o'clock on Monday. And we want to see a before and after. So what you're actually going to do is send us 10. So it's going to be the original and the edited version. So what we want to do is then put them side by side so we can look at what you've done, and hopefully we can talk about a few of them and look at the settings everyone's used. So that obviously is going to be a bit more interactive on Tuesday because I can ask you live what you've done and which settings you've used, and hopefully I can have a go at replicating it as well. But yeah, so we're looking for 5 edited photos. So 5 originals, 5 edited. So you should be sending 10 over. 3 should be new. So 3 new shots. Feel free to use 2 from previous weeks so you don't have to be shooting too much. Get them across to us by Monday evening and we will have a look at them for you. That'd be wonderful. Right, I think we are sorted. Does anyone have any questions or anything? But if not, everyone's free to go. I'll stay on for 2 minutes to answer questions because we've packed so much in so quickly. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll see you all Tuesday at 11. But feel free to ask me some questions for a minute if you'd like. How do we do this? Not that one. Sorry guys, I am actually trying to get you. So I'm on screen. See you Tuesday, Sally. Whoa, that's a bit big, isn't it? Can I get Lightroom on your Mac? You can do a free trial, I think. I think there's a 30-day free trial with it. Actually saying that, Dom's got... Dom might have it with Creative Cloud. I'm not sure whether hers includes it. No, I don't think she's got it.
If Dom's got it, Mum can use it.
Yeah, ask her. She might have it, I'm not sure. Yeah, you can get a 30-day free trial. It's a little bit more in-depth, but the general settings are very similar. The other thing on your Mac, Lisa, if you use the Photos app, it has most of those settings in there. Let's have a look if I bring it back up for you. Hang on. Trying to see. Where are we? If I just go back to this. So your Photos app on the Mac, Lisa, is this. So you've got these settings. So you've got most of the similar settings. So if you wanted to do it on that, that's probably you're gonna be able to use what I told you most of the time anyway. Might vary slightly, but ask me, I should be able to help you on that one. Thank you, George. Glad you're getting into it. Anybody else any questions before we go? Oh, that's a horrible mark on that wall. Anyway. I hope I didn't waffle too much there, guys. As I said, there was a lot to pack in. Hopefully it all made sense. Go on, Sally. That's why I'm here. Waffle. You tell I don't do the emojis. Bye, Lisa. See you, Zoe. Did you want pictures as well before? Yes, so before and after pictures would be better. It just helps everybody else see what you've done. So while it's great, obviously, the whole point is seeing the end picture, it's a bit nicer if everyone can see how you've changed the image. See how drastic it is. It shows us what you've done in the first place and whether you've got it right in the first place. Obviously, as I said, we don't want to be fixing things. While Lightroom can do that, in theory, we're making things better, not fixing things. So yes, if we can, you'll be effectively sending 10 pictures across to us, but each one's twice. Don't worry. I'll try and post a quick brief thing on the group just in case anyone missed it anyway, and that should help. Wonderful. Right, we will have a lovely weekend. We will see you all Tuesday at 11 then. Thanks, guys. I don't know how to end this. I've lost my window. Ah, there. Bye.